Greetings, welcome back. Today's lecture is on internal regulation, chapter 9. So we're talking about what is it that's inside of our bodies, that regulates behaviors. The behaviors that we're discussing will be temperature, thirst, and hunger. So we'll look at what in our body or our brain regulates that. Well, we know the hypothalamus is a very important structure deep in the center of the brain. We spoke about it earlier in lectures that it helps to regulate behavior. So if we looked at a thermostat in the room, a thermostat is something that regulates the heat in the room. Well, the hypothalamus is like a thermostat in your brain. So if you look at a sagittal section of the brain, cut it in half, deep in the middle where this green area is where the hypothalamus is. Right below it is the pituitary gland. Hypothalamus pituitary. If you blow it up, right here, there are multiple nuclei within the hypothalamus. Those multiple nuclei relate to or have an impact on certain kinds of behavior. Right below it is the pituitary, and this then releases hormones into the endocrine system. So in the hypothalamus, you have releasing hormones, and the pituitary gland, you have stimulating hormones. So we'll speak about the first topic of discussion on temperature. So, temperature affects behaviors in multiple ways. We know that we have a challenge right now in the world with this virus, coronavirus, and it raises temperature. Therefore, if you measure someone's temperature on the front end, you may know there's something going on with their body. Well, our bodies must have a set range. So, know what the word homeostasis means in your notes. So, again, it refers to a certain state that is a fixed range that your body temperature remains in. So we know there are some animals that do certain things to stay warm. We as humans, as mammals, we are able to put on clothes and do different things to stay warm. Other animals have certain kinds of body parts, such as the beaks, the bills, and the hair on their bodies that regulates their warmth. So for humans, we have a set point, and that range, keep us in the range of like 97 to about maybe 98 degrees Fahrenheit. Anything going beyond 99 and above can be dangerous. Anything below certainly is problematic. So we have a certain way that we maintain homeostasis, and that takes energy for the body to do that. So temperature regulation can occur as the brain is recognizing what's going on the outside. So you need energy though to maintain this. So people who are homeothermic are people who are mammals primarily. So homeothermic requires energy and fuel to maintain a certain level. Increasing temperature is accomplished via shivering or decreasing blood flow to the skin, fluffing of the fur. So mammals go through this. Homeothermic are what mammals are. As opposed to poikilothermic refers to animals who are like cold-blooded, amphibians, reptiles, and most fish. So there's not an internal mechanism for them. Their bodies adjust to the environment. As the environment changes, their body changes. So if it's cold out, the animal's body is cold. If it's warm out, the animal's body is warm. So that's how snakes, amphibians, and reptiles operate. Although known as cold-blooded organism, cold is only in reference to the environment they're living in. And I'm sure you've heard the stories about a frog and being in a certain pot. Well, if a frog is put into a hot boiling pot of water, it's going to jump out. Because the body temperature is not like that. But if you put the frog in the water and you turn it up, the heat up, and then the frog stays in the water, potentially it can boil to death, because all the body is doing is adjusting to the heat, and that's going to be problematic in the long term. So temperature. A lot of information on this. However, we can fast forward in terms of why is temperature important. There are some animals, those poikilothermic animals, that can maybe freeze their bodies and, I don't know, maybe go through something called hibernation. Death will occur if body temperature drops below freezing. However, there are certain animals that can burrow underground to avoid the cold. So for us, about, again, 98 degrees Fahrenheit is primarily used for our standing temperature. Anything above a problem, anything below a problem. So things that get into the body that alter it, like viruses, can make that temperature go up. So in the brain, in the hypothalamus, there's an area I want you to know called the medial preoptic area of the anterior hypothalamus. So preoptic area of the anterior hypothalamus. Preoptic area. So it's saying it's in the front of the place where there's like the optic chiasm where things are crossing. So the in the front of the optic area, anterior, the front of the hypothalamus. This is making reference to the location that is found in the brain. So those receptors that are there, they're monitoring the heat that's going through there, the blood flow that's going through there to determine whether or not you're cold or you're hot. So it receives input from the immune system. Wow, immune system going on with this coronavirus. Heating leads to panting, sweating, cooling, shivering. So again, there's regulating mechanisms within the hypothalamus, and so that is occurring in that area for temperature. Please know that. So the slide I showed you earlier, back here again, side section. You blow the area up in the middle. There's the hypothalamus, pituitary below. The anterior hypothalamus is in the beginning, or in the front, because the front of the brain is that way. So anterior hypothalamus, it says right here, preoptic area. So right around this area is where we're saying temperature is being regulated. Right there. So again, the names of what you'll hear later on with certain types of places in the brain just make reference to where they are found in the brain. So with the immune system, it delivers chemicals that help to monitor whether or not you're going to be sick or not. So the heat that's being generated is to kill the virus that's inside your body. So the preoptic area is not the only brain area involved in temperature regulation. However, we know that the immune system releases chemicals, and those chemicals help to fight that virus in the system, and it fights about also elevating temperature. So just a quick synopsis of what could happen. You'll see that on the slide here. You get an infection, therefore their immune response, things like histamine and prostaglandin. When you say histamine, it's something that causes excitation of your cells. So people who have asthma, they take antihistamines to lessen the swelling of the cells. You got a problem outside of your body, you take some agents that can stop the redness that's occurring in your body. So these things are happening internally, but they can also raise temperature. So they affect that preoptic area of the hypothalamus. That's all that we're saying here. All these different things can affect that area and then cause you to sweat. So fever is important. It indicates that you have change going on in your body. And so fevers above 103 does more harm than good. So you want to kind of regulate that. So that's why there's a big problem right now with this virus, coronavirus, because if the heat generates too much, you have a problem, but this is also why you're knowing that there's maybe something in your system when the heat gets that high. That's why we're testing everybody with that thermometer near their head to see if they should be going into a facility where there are healthy people. Don't want to infect people if there's something wrong in your body. Your body actually has its own ability to fight infection though. There's actually a chemical in the brain called melanocyte stimulating hormone. MSH. It actually functions as an anti-pyretic agent. Pyresis, fire, anti-fire, anti-fever. So it's lowering the temperature in the body naturally. So melanocyte stimulating hormone is actually a chemical in your body that actually does that naturally, rather than taking those the aspirin or the acetaminophen or external agents. So just keeping that in mind. Your body has everything it needs to do to fight, but we sometimes don't quite treat it right. So we're really not immune to anything. If anything, we have a defensive mechanism system. So we have to focus on putting the right things in our body to fight infections and viruses. Next topic of discussion is on thirst. So we do know our body is primarily water, 70% water. So consuming water and maintaining a well-nourished cellular environment is important for your organs to work properly. Without water, you're not going to survive. You can exist without food for several days. People fast. But you can't exist without water. So there are mechanisms in your brain, and we go back to the hypothalamus, that actually control water balance. One of the clearest ones discussed is a hormone called vasopressin. We'll see it. But vasopressin is a hormone that's considered to be an anti-diuretic hormone. So vasopressin actually conserves water. So it's a hormone that makes sure that you can have water in your body. So some people take blood pressure medicines and may affect that vasopressin system. So that's a hormone from the pituitary gland. But in the hypothalamus, there are some other areas we need to speak about that are involved in controlling thirst. So that's what we just spoke about, vasopressin. So you can look at that in your notes, also known as anti-diuretic. So again, helps the kidneys to reabsorb water and excrete highly concentrated urine. So sometimes your urine may look yellow or clear. I mean, reference to, again, what's going on with these hormones circulating in your body. And this topic right here, blood pressure, constricting blood vessels, that's a whole other discussion that really pertains to some problems that are going on currently with people who take blood pressure medicines. Two types of thirst I want you to remember. One is called osmotic thirst. The other is hypovolemic thirst. Osmotic thirst pertains to adjusting the solute balance in the cells. So salty foods, you allow salty foods like chips. You may not want to drink a lot because you're needing to balance out that solute or the salt that's in your body. So eating salty foods can trigger osmotic thirst. Hypovolemic thirst is more likely a result of loss of a large volume of blood, volemic. So fluids due to bleeding or sweating. So your body has a fixed set point of how you need to maintain water balance, but these are mechanisms that can trigger thirst to make you consume water. So osmotic pressure, again, for osmotic thirst is with solutes inside and outside of the cell. Depending upon how much salt may be outside of the cell, depends upon how much water needs to be outside the cell to what? Get rid of that salt. A lot of salt in the cell, a lot of water is going to come into what? Operate and change the nature of the cell. So that's dealing with osmotic pressure. And you can look at the slide here on your own about what happens when you have a lot of greens or the solutes that are out in around the cell. So a lot of green, so water flows out of the cell, equalizing the solute concentration. So it's now water going out of here, shrinking the cell, and that has an impact on, again, your organs and how they work. That's why you have a good balance of water. Can't consume a lot of items that don't contain H2O. So your body will be impacted, your cells will be shrinking and causing some long-term problems. So again, osmotic pressure, salty foods, sodium. So for osmotic pressure, and there will be a figure later on that gives you a distinction between the two, osmotic and hypovolemic. And in that figure, it's going to give you a reference point to certain organs that relates to it. So having that in your mind is going to be important for remembering later on for the exam. But for the brain, there are actually places in the brain that can detect the changes of the water in your body. They're called the OVLT, organum vasculosum lamina terminalis. You will look at that one, and the subcortical organ. These are they're called circumventricular organs. Circum because they're around the ventricular system. I think I have another figure I could show you where they're located, because the circumventricular organs are what are actually monitoring water balance in your body without you thinking about it. So this figure right here, the green area is the third ventricle. Ventricles where the cerebrospinal fluid flows. Around that area, it's like a cavity in the brain, like a cavern, like a cave system. There are these organs, subcortical organ. Whoops, right back. The subcortical organ, and then the OVLT, or gamma vascular lamina terminalis, OVLT, right there. So they're around the area where fluid is flowing, and as they detect changes in the receptors detect the changes, that's when your water, your desire to drink comes from. Those changes going on, sensitivity in the brain. So again, you can go ahead and review on your own. Look at the circumventricular organs. I didn't realize they had another figure on here to show you. It's the same figure we just looked at. It's a subcortical organ, OVLT. That green area is where the third ventricle is. As the fluid is flowing through your brain, those areas detect the water level and make you and trigger you to want to drink. So, the release of these hormones, like vasopressin, also impacts the change. We won't get to it thoroughly, but the angiotensin II, the liver, you got the other organs, like the kidney, that release renin, R-E-N-I-N. So all those organs are very important for processing the water in your body. Those people who have kidney failure may not be consuming enough water. Therefore, the hormones and the organs start to fail. Therefore, you what? Have a problem called you got to be on dialysis. Not good. So these hormones, when they become imbalanced, they can also offset what's going on in the entire body. So for a quick look at the hypovolemic changes, low blood volume, again, menstruation, got shot, blood leaving your body, a lot of loss of fluid, triggers the release of renin in the kidneys. We just talked about that. The kidneys, without having the kidneys operating properly, you're not going to have a good filtering system. Proteins in the blood then create this angiotensin, which then creates angiotensin II, and then that's again from the liver, and then that goes to talk to those areas we just talked about, those circumventricular organs, to trigger a person to want to now drink. That's what's going on with the triggering, the desire to want to consume fluids. And this is on your own, you can look at this figure. It has the osmotic thirst, hypovolemic thirst, and it breaks down the differences between the two. And again, with those two areas we just spoke about, the OVLT is important for osmotic thirst, the subcortical organ is important for hypovolemic thirst. You know that, you're good. Next topic is hunger. So, the way we consume food and eat, gotta chew it first. So as you're chewing, you have enzymes in your mouth that break down the food. Goes down your esophagus, down to the duodenum, to your stomach for further processing. From your stomach to your intestines, small, large, for further processing. So there's a whole mechanism by which food is digested in your body and how the nutrients are absorbed. So we know there's different kinds of animals. You got carnivores, omnivores, herbivores, And I thought I would give you a breakdown of that, but again, a carnivore is an animal that eats primarily meat. Herbivore, animal that eats primarily like vegetables and green things. And an omnivore eats both. You can look at different types of teeth of an animal. Flat teeth, probably for grinding nuts and berries, versus sharp teeth for digging into meat and raw meat. So the context of an organism or animal's teeth can make reference to how they should be consuming. So again, enzymes and saliva break down the foods first. In your stomach, you got hydrochloric acids that also are further breaking down the foods. Salivary glands provide the moisture, goes down the esophagus, gets down to the stomach. Liver is also important, gallbladder is important, kidneys are important. All these things are important processing the nutrients and chemicals that are coming through our body. So as it gets to the stomach, it can now go to the small intestine, where it can be relieved or released, releasing proteins and nutrients for your body to absorb for your strength. After the small intestines, it then goes to the large intestine, and the large intestine is really called your colon, especially the last part of your colon. That's part of your large intestine called your colon. So we know a lot of people have colon cancer or problems with the colon because they have an impacted colon from what not relieving and removing the waste that's in their body. So the colon is primarily for relieving waste. Enzymes are very important for breaking down foods. Some people are lactose intolerant, which means they lack lactase. Lactase is the enzyme that breaks down the components of milk. Some people don't have the lactase, therefore they get problems drinking whole milk, drinking milk, period. So there may be other enzyme deficiencies that cause a problem for people to consume certain foods. So the large intestine again absorbs water and minerals, it helps lubricate. So water is important to us as a good way to make sure the fluids flowing through your body. Got to consume that water. Dairy products, we just talked about that. Again, you can go over on your own. I don't want you to read through the PowerPoint slides. You can do that on your own. Just trying to give you a sense of where we're going with the topics of discussion. So you can read through on your own, through the PowerPoint slides. So, interesting here, it says nearly all adults in China and surrounding countries lack the gene that enables adults to metabolize lactose. So there's certain cultures that can't or don't consume certain kinds of foods. That may not be all over the world, and actually in the book there's a map showing where there are differences in how people consume foods. Percentage of here's the map right here. Again, it shows you those with 90% of adult populations that can drink milk is where you see the large or the darker colors. Here, up in Europe, but not so much over there in China, especially where we have the problems right now in Wuhan, China. So, again, food selection could depend upon the person's environment that they're in. Some people like spicy food, some people like sugary food, some people like bland foods, some people drink a lot of the milk. So it depends upon the area you're coming from. Some people eat a lot of fish, some people don't like fish. So some societies live near water, therefore they're fishing a lot. So the cod liver oil, the salmon, tuna, it becomes important to them to remain staying healthy. So there are many studies that say why it is that people are consuming food, but how is the brain digesting this and working this? Believe it or not, there's actually an organ in or a nerve in your system called the vagus nerve. Cranial nerve number 10. Cranial nerve number 10, vagus nerve, actually innervates all your internal organs, your digestive system, including your heart. But it's coming from the brain and innervates all these areas. Well, the vagus nerve also goes from the stomach area back up to the brain. There are chemicals that flow back and forth. One of those chemicals is called cholecystokinin, CCK. CCK is known as a gut hormone, also considered a satiety hormone. Satiety, S-A-T-I-E-T-Y, satiety. Makes you feel full. You don't need any more to eat. Makes you sleepy after eating. A CCK. So regulates hunger. So it goes in between stomach and the brain. So basically when you're chewing food, the food you're eating mixes with the mucosal surface of your digestive system, and then it makes this chemical. It can then go from the stomach back up to the brain, make you feel like you don't want to eat anymore. All hormonal, triggered by the brain. Glucose. There's some theories about why we eat and feed. So we'll talk about three. One is called the feeding center, the one is called the satiety center, and this one is really dealing with glucose. So basically, glucose levels. The higher glucose levels, the lower people should desire to eat. Lower the glucose levels, the more people should desire to eat. So glucose, which is the energy in your body, that may be the reason why some people are consuming more than others. Main product of digestion. So glucose could be an issue. Could be a reason why people consume a lot of food. Something regulates glucose levels. Do you know the organ that regulates glucose? Yes, the pancreas. Releases a hormone called insulin, also glucagon. So insulin helps to regulate the levels of glucose in your system. If the insulin levels are not working right, pancreas doesn't work right, glucose can go out of balance, cause the person to develop a disease called diabetes. So insulin and glucagon. Just remember them as the two main hormones involved in feeding, and also the dynamic of the pancreas working properly. Insulin and glucagon. You go over them in detail on your own to read it. I don't want to just read through the PowerPoint. Give you a sense of what you need to know first. So insulin and glucagon are very important. Diabetes, problem in our community. I'm not going to ask any deep questions on that, but again, diabetes results when that pancreas is not working properly. So then some people may need insulin injections. And all these problems can lead to people going on to dialysis when they're not consuming enough water, not getting the right glucose levels, and the organs start to fail. So a whole process of what's occurring in this eating. Now, since we're on the issue of hormones, there is a hormone known as leptin. They say leptin is a hormone that has been found that could be related to why some people become more obese than others. So leptin, it helps them regulate fat cells. The body's fat cells produce the peptide leptin, which signals the brain to increase or decrease eating. So leptin levels and its changes may be the reason why some people become susceptible to overeating and becoming obese than others. It's regulating the fat cells. You can read that on your own again. Now, the information about the brain. There are some chemicals like ghrelin, beyond leptin, ghrelin and cortisol. These chemicals are known to influence a person's desire to consume food. Neuropeptide Y, so you now have all these different chemicals that make you or affect your appetite, suppress it, stimulate it. And so keeping that in mind, neuropeptides in your brain can trigger you to eat or decrease your desire to consume. So again, not going into deeply, but here, I just mentioned in this little slide here, neuropeptide Y, galactin protein, even GABA, ghrelin, orexin. It's an enormous amount of chemicals that can cause a change in your desire to consume and eat. But again, just remember that there's multiple neuropeptides, main thing. Not going to have to get mixed up with the multiple names. Do know leptin, but not all these names. So, the issue is beyond these chemicals, as you can read through, are there different parts of the brain that control or regulate hunger. Yes. So people thought about the lateral hypothalamus being associated with the feeding center. Because if you lesion this center, that is, you destroy those cells and disturb them so they don't work. This is a image of a rat brain from the top, showing the hypothalamus blown up. If you lesion the lateral area has destroyed those cells, let's say with electrode, and take them out so they don't operate properly, the animals don't eat. So they get really, really small and don't consume food. So people thought the lateral area was associated with the feeding center. In this same image here, again, if that's the animal's nose, so most of the cells here are anterior. You go up here, posterior, it's the side, lateral. Well, the ventral medial area, ventral, bottom, medial, in the middle. So this area is associated with the satiety center. So lateral hypothalamus, feeding, as it says, damage to this area causes aversion to food. So again, look on the PowerPoint on your own. But for the ventral medial, if you lesion that area, ventral medial, bottom, middle, the animals keep eating, and they keep eating, and they keep eating to the point that they get very obese. So that's why it's considered to be the satiety area. So in that context, does that mean in a person's brain, there could be some cells not working right, a tumor or something causing those cells to be out of whack, out of order, and the person doesn't eat? Or they're causing a problem where the person can't stop eating. So who knows? Obesity could be a challenge with the brain, but it could also be a challenge with those fat cells. It could be a combination. Psychologically, it could be something going on. We in this chapter are discussing some of the psychological issues. So there are certainly pathways. People question the lateral hypothalamus as the feeding center only because, yeah, you lesion those areas, take those brain areas out, but it may not be so much that it's stopping the animal from eating, but it's also altered the way they masticate, that is move. They can't move to get to the food, so it's now affecting motivation, desire, not so much just the issue of hunger, but just the fact that along the pathways, there may be some other disruptions. That's why the animal's not eating. In the book, it does discuss some further areas. I can't get too detailed with you on that, but deep in the middle of the brain, something called the nucleus of the solitary tract. Actually, that vagus nerve we talked about earlier extends up and goes to that area and releases chemicals that can go further into the brain to impact your desire to eat and consume. So feeding is a very complex task. And all we're showing here is that, guess what? From the bottom up, stomach going up to the brain, multiple things can happen that can feed back onto the brain. And so when we talk about those lesions that are destroying the cells, this chart in the book gives you an example of what happens in those areas of lesion. Ventromedial and the lateral are the two areas we just talked about for feeding. Please know those. Here's an example of the animal. If you can see it on your right there, that animal right there, really small, normal. The animal that has that ventromedial hypothalamus damaged, got really, really big. And you look at the chart, look at how the body weight and the food intake changed over time. Animal with the lesion, of course, the body weight increased, and also the food intake increased. So, as we conclude on the issue of disorders, we know there's something called anorexia nervosa and also something called bulimia. So, there may be a reason why some people are feeling as though they have body image problems. So, they therefore develop some issues with consuming food. So, for bulimia, nervosa, eating disorder in which people alternate between extreme dieting and binges or overeating. Most of these people usually regurgitate their food rather than having it stay in their body, but they desire to keep eating. Maybe it has something to do with depression and some psychological challenges that people may have. It resembles drug addiction. People get caught up eating and then binging and then purging. And anorexia nervosa, you've heard of that. That deals with body image problems. I thought it was a slide that showed you that, but anorexia was the last topic of discussion. It related to, again, somebody who may think that they're really big and large, but they're really skinny. That's a body image issue. And most of the challenges we have in this day and age with the society and with the images of what you see in a magazine, skinny white woman as the model to follow. People want to be skinny, and then they want to see this on the image, and therefore they are focused on that in their mind. And so they may see that and then think that, oh, no, they're too big, and they may just be as skinny as that person in the image. So we could say that anorexia nervosa more than likely is more than just some physical problem, but it's also a mental problem. So again, as long as you know how the hypothalamus has chemicals that can control temperature, thirst, and these mechanisms we talked about with hunger, you should be fine for the exam for chapter 9.